Friends, recently a new feature for which almost every tax practitioner in this fraternity was eagerly waiting for has just arrived to the GSTN portal. Yes friends, we are talking about GSTR 9 annual return. GSTN portal has recently launched the facility to file GSTR 9 for the financial year 2017 and 18 in the portal. In this video, we are going to see how the whole form looks and the various details which it demands from an SSE. So let's quickly get into the form and see the various details in it. To log into the portal, simply visit gst.gov.in. Under the Login tab, click Login. Fill in your credentials like your username and the password. Provide the CAPTCHA details. Now, to read GSTR 9 annual return, we have two options. The first one is directly from the dashboard, you will get to see annual return, or you can simply navigate to the Services tab. Under the Returns, you will get option for annual return. So these are the two options presently available under the portal to access the annual return form. Once you will click on the annual return, you will get the financial year, and presently only the financial year 2017-18 is available to file annual return for. Click on the search button. Now here you will get an help which says nil GSTR 9 return can be filed. Yes friends, you heard it absolutely right. GSTR 9 return can also be filed nil, but conditions apply. What are all those conditions? Let's quickly check. The SSE not made any outward supply, commonly known as sales. So if at all there is no sales for the whole financial year and has not received any inward supplies, that means has not made any purchases of goods or services or anyway, and no liability of any kind. Friends, here it is very much particular about any kind of liability. It is not limited about your outward supplies only. So it is asking of any kind of liability should not be there. Next condition is not claimed any credit during the financial year. So if at all you had claimed any input tax credit on any of the supplies, ultimately like if at all you had made any purchases, but of course for that generally we claim the input tax credit. So if you had claimed any credit during the financial year, then also you are not eligible to file nil return. Has not received any order creating demand. So if department has raised any demand on the SSE, then also the SSE won't be able to file nil return. And the next is has not claimed any refund. If the SSE has filed or claimed any refund from the portal, then also the SSE is required to file the return, which is not going to be nil. So ultimately, if in a crux we would say if the SSE has been dormant, then only he is allowed to file the nil return. Apart from that, he'll have to file the return in the general basis. The second condition says GSTR 9 can be filed online. It can also be prepared on offline tool and then uploaded on the portal and filed. It is quite similar to the offline tools which are available for GSTR 1 and so on. But as for now, when we'll see to this, so you'll get to know that only prepare online form is available, is highlighted. Once you'll try to click on the prepare offline, this facility has not yet been enabled by the portal. So this is one thing. The point third says annual return in the form GSTR 9 is required to be filed by every taxpayer registered as normal taxpayer during the relevant financial year. So what it is? Friends, there was a lot more confusion between GSTR 9 and GSTR 9C. Most of us had been thinking that if a person is supposed to file GSTR 9C, then he is not supposed to file GSTR 9. Friends, so it is not like that. GSTR 9 is to be filed mandatorily by every registered person, or to be more specific, every normal taxpayer who has registered himself or herself under this GST portal. If an SSE has got registered under the GSTN portal from July 15 and has continued to be registered till 20th of September for the financial year 17-18, will that taxpayer will be liable to file this GSTR 9 or he won't be liable? So it says annual return in form GSTR 9 is to be required to be filed by every taxpayer registered as a normal taxpayer during the relevant financial year. Means if any taxpayer was registered person during the financial year at any point of time or for any period so far, has to necessarily file this GSTR 9. Then the next point says all applicable statements in the form GSTR 1 and returns in form GSTR 3B of the financial year shall have been filed before filing GSTR 9. So this is a very important point to be taken care, that SSE won't be allowed to file GSTR 9 annual return until and unless his GSTR 1 and GSTR 3B for the said period are filed. So this was a quick help that they had been provided here. And then there is a key point to be noted very carefully, which is annual return in form GSTR 9 once filed cannot be revised. Yes friends, to be very much careful about this point, that return once filed cannot be revised. It is very much clear statement made by the government, made by the portal, that be very much careful while filing the return. Second point says computation of ITC. It is basically about the ITC that based on GSTR 2A has been auto-populated by the system based on GSTR 1 filed by your corresponding suppliers up to 28th Feb 2019. And next auto updation of GSTR 2A will be carried on 31st of March 2019. If you have some missing credits in GSTR 2A, you may like to wait till the next updation. So what basically it is, that once you had purchased some items or some supplies from any of the supplier, and the supplier has not yet uploaded your invoices, and supplier has simply not made the supplier has not yet recorded sales in his or her GSTR 1, so that corresponding to that sales of the supplier, your 2A won't be reflected in your portal, which is a significant factor that we are going to see once we'll get into this form. So these are the basic things that you really need to keep in mind while filing the GSTR return. The first one is like it cannot be revised, and then the second is that GSTR 2A credit will be auto-populated and the data it will show will be up to 28th of February 2019. So these are all the things that are needed to be taken care. And one thing, and a very welcome feature I would say, that the portal has done for all the SSEs is that they had provided the draft data that should have been, in case no ambiguities are found in the data as per books and the data which is provided in the portal. So what is that? Let's quickly get into the portal and see. So this is the whole form of GSTR 9. The heading says annual return for normal taxpayers. Your GSTIN number, your legal name, trade name, and then status whether it is filed or not filed for the financial year and the due date. Take a note that the due date for filing GSTR 9 annual return has been scheduled to be 30th of June 2019 by the department, and you need to take care this deadline, and we would recommend you to file the returns before this date, because since we all know that many of the times the portal used to get a lot of load, and because of that it is unable to handle the request. So we'd request you all to file your annual returns beforehand to avoid the last minute rush and ultimately ending up to non-filing and then attracting the penalties. So this is the whole form, the basic details which are auto-populated. Then it says please answer the below questions to view the relevant part of the return. So what that questions are? It is simply asking that whether you want to file nil return or not. Take a note that this yes option won't be highlighted if at all any transactions are appearing as per the portal to your account. So ultimately you are left with an option to say no. Click on this no, move ahead to next. Once you will move to the next screen, here that welcome feature I was talking about is displayed. It is the download GSTR 9 system computed summary. So what it is, that what system thinks, this portal thinks your exact GSTR 9 should be like has automatically been drafted. So you can download this out and see how it looks. Then if you want to reconcile your GSTR 1, that is your outward supplies, simply sales. So you want to reconcile from your books of accounts, so you can download this GSTR 1 summary in the PDF format and then reconcile with your books of accounts from any of the software that you are using. Similarly for 3B, you want to reconcile, you can download this summary and can reconcile. Moving on to the first table of GSTR 9, which is table 4, and it says details of advances, inward and outward supplies made during the financial year on which tax is payable. So it is simply saying all those outward supplies or the advances or the inward supplies on which tax was payable. So here is the table 4, which says details of advances, inward and outward supplies made during the financial year on which tax is payable. So whether if in case of inward supplies also, if the tax is payable, is to be disclosed here. And then again the system has automatically drafted based on your GSTR 1 and 3B details the data for the whole form. And in case you find any differences from your books of account, one more thing that I specifically want to highlight is the details to be filled in GSTR 9. There is a big kind of confusion amongst everyone, almost everyone, that whether the details are to be filled as per the portal or as per the books of accounts. So earlier it was supposed to be filled as per the portal, the details which have been declared. Earlier the GSTR 9 form was having a line in the beginning itself which says the details being declared. So declared simply says जो details आपने बताए हैं उधर, that you are supposed to fill here. So then it after the various discussions on this, and then the GST Council came up with the modification in this form at certain spaces. So they came up with the word details made during the financial year. So based on this, once you will analyze the word and will go into the depth of this, so you'll get to know that now you are supposed to fill the details as per your books of accounts rather than filling it as per your portal. Fill. So this says supplies made to unregistered persons, that is the B2C sales. Table 4A says supplies made to the unregistered persons, that is the B2C supplies. So that the taxable value, the integrated tax, the central tax, state tax, and the cess. Similarly, for supplies made to registered persons, that is the B2B supplies, needed to be disclosed here. Table 4C talks about zero rated supplies, that is the export on payment of tax. That means you had paid tax on it except supplies to SEZ. Then 4D talks about supplies to SEZ on payment of tax. If you had paid tax and made supplies to the SEZ developers, then the details are to be filled in 4D. Then deemed exports, details for the deemed exports are supposed to be filled in 4E. Advances on which tax has been paid but invoice has not been issued. In that case, you are supposed to describe all those details over here. Then inward supplies on which tax is to be paid on the reverse charge. So these are all the details, and based on all the details that you will describe here, column H will make an aggregate to all the heads accordingly. Then column I, column J talks about the credit and debit notes issued. Column K talks about the supplies or tax declared through amendments, if at all any amendment has taken place, and because of that you are making any supplies or supplies that got affected, so you are supposed to mention it over here. And this tells that the details which you are going to mention over here are going to be added to your supplies. So this is the column K, and then column L talks about the supply tax reduced through amendment. If at all any reduction has taken place, then that is supposed to be mentioned, and the details you will be mentioning over here will be subtracted. Then based on that, it will calculate the subtotal, and the supplies and advances on which tax is to be paid will get reflected in column 4N. So these are all the details which you are supposed to mention over here. By default, the system will automatically display the details. So simply what you need to do is make the necessary amendments wherever applicable, and then click on Save. Once it displays the success message, click OK and get back to this Form 9. So this was all about the table 4. Now let's talk about table 5. So the table 5 talks about the details of outward supplies made during the financial year on which tax is not payable. This will basically cover the zero rated supplies, supplies to SEZ, exempted supplies, nil rated supplies, or the supplies which are out of the ambit of GST and so on. Tax is not payable. Therefore, IGST, CGST, SGST columns had automatically got disabled. So you simply need to describe the taxable value only. So what are all these? The 5A column talks about zero rated supplies which are export without payment of tax. Column B talks about supply to SEZ without payment of tax. Column D talks about exempted supplies. Then column E about the nil rated supplies. Column F about the non-GST supplies includes no supply. Which no supply basically means which are not covered under the definition of supply under GST. Then column G will automatically get a subtotal, and the credit debit note details in column H and I respectively. Column J will talk about the supplies declared through amendments. Similarly, column K will talk about the reduction in the supplies due to amendments, and then the subtotal, and this will be done. The net turnover, that is the total turnover including advances of column 4 of table 4N plus 5M minus 4G. So these are all the details. Click on save, and after getting a success message, get back to the form. So this was table 5, and now we'll get to the table 6. So this is table 6, which talks about the details of ITCs availed during the financial year. So here the key concept for which that help box was saying that the ITC till January 2019 is only being populated so far, and the next auto-populated data will be rolled out on March 2019. So this table 6A basically reflects the amount of input tax credit availed through form GSTR 3B, that is the sum total of table 4A of form GSTR 3B. At the time of filing GSTR 3B, whatever the input tax credit you had declared, this will be reflected in table 6A. And take a note that these details that you had described while filing GSTR 3B are non-editable. And now you had to declare that how these IGST, CGST, SGST components have been utilized. Like in the case here, the IGST of 3800 was from the inward supplies other than imports, inward supplies liable to reverse charge but includes services received from SEZ. So this whole 3800 was belonging to this 6B, so we had mentioned over here. Similarly for CGST, the same has been mentioned over 6B. If say for example this would not have been the case, maybe it would have been covered in table 6C, which talks about inward supplies received from the unregistered persons liable to reverse charge other than B above, on which tax is paid and ITC availed. Might be a case if it all not covered in table B, or might have not been covered in column B or in column C, then it have a probability of getting covered in column D or in column F or maybe in column G. So these are the various columns. The column C talks about the inward supplies received from unregistered persons liable to reverse charge. Basically it talks about the supplies made under section 9(4), which says the supplies made from an unregistered person. And then column D talks about the supplies made under 9(3), means the supplies specifically on which tax is to be charged on the reverse charge basis only. Then import of goods including supplies from SEZ. So whatever the import of goods you have done needed to be declared in 6E, and for the services to be declared in 6F. Then the input tax credit received from ISD. So if at all like any ISD registration has been there for any of the concerns and you had received any ISD, proportionate input tax has been distributed by the ISD to you, that you needed to declare in column 6G. Now column 6H talks about the amount of ITC reclaimed. So what is amount of ITC reclaimed? That means say for example you had claimed some ITC, then it gets reversed due to certain circumstances, and then again you reclaim that. So all those ITCs are needed to be declared here only. Next it talks about is the subtotal, which will automatically get populated based on the details that you will fill. So if at all there is any difference between the I, that is the subtotal, and the total of ITC which is displayed in the beginning at 6A column will automatically get reflected over here, and then the transition credit through Tran 1, the transition credit through Tran 2, and any other ITC availed but not specified, and so on. The details are to be mentioned over here. Click on the save and similarly get back to the next table, which is table 7. Friends, this video is going to be a bit longer since we need to cover approximately 16 tables, and we will try to get an overview to each and every table so that you can have an idea of what are the details which are needed to be mentioned. So let's quickly get to table 7. It says details of ITC reversed and ineligible ITC for the financial year. Basically, if you have any ITC which has been reversed due to any of the cases, or any ITC which is ineligible for the financial year, then you need to describe as per the various rules. Rule 37, if the consideration has not been paid, then the ITC is supposed to be reversed. Or as per the rule 39, which says about the distribution of input tax by IST. So similarly, there are various rules like rule 42, 43, section 17.5, Tran 1 credit का reversal है, or either the Tran 2's credit reversal is there. So you need to mention all those details over here. Then it will automatically calculate, and click on save and get back to the form. So this was the table 7. Now let's quickly move to other ITC related information, which is a bit very important because this is directly linked to the table 6. So if the details are somewhere mismatching or anything, so it will reflect the balances. So what the table 8 says is the other ITC related information. So in the 8A column, you will see ITC as per GSTR 2A. So this was the point for which I was talking at the beginning of this video, that you need to mention that you need to be very much careful while filing the GSTR 2A. So this was the point for which I was talking about in the beginning of the video, that GSTR 2A needs to be very carefully observed before filing GSTR 9. Next video will also talk about a reconciliation utility, that how you can reconcile your GSTR 2A with the purchases and the input tax as per your books, which is a very small and a convenient utility made simply on the Excel, but still very much effective and productive. So we'll talk about this in the next video. So this 8A basically reflects the details as per the 2A, that ITC which is available as per the 2A, that means the GSTR 1 of the supplier from whom you had purchased. Then the 8B is ITC as per sum total of the table 6B and 6H above. So this would be that ITC which you had declared in 6B and 6H that means in the table 6 column H in the previous. So as you can see, this field is particularly right now uneditable. So to make changes to this field or to this value, you will have to go to GSTR table, GSTR 9's table 6B or 6H to make the changes, and then we'll have to come back to see the changes being reflected over here. It will give you a difference in the ITC. Right now, as the figures are showing minus 69 rupees in the IGST head, that means we had claimed 69 rupees excess as what is being displayed in the 2A details of my portal. So this is that you need to take care of while filing this GSTR 9. Then ITC available but not availed. there is some ITC which was available to you but still you had not availed, so you can then it talks about the ITC available but ineligible. There may be certain circumstances where the ITC is available but you cannot avail that since you are not eligible for that. Then it talks about IGST paid on ports on import of goods. So at the time of importing the goods, you had paid some IGST over the port, so that you need to describe over here. And by filling all those details, you will get to a difference whatsoever. If it is nothing, so it will reflect 0. After saving, you will get back to the form, and you will see table 9. Now we'll see table 9, which talks about details of tax paid as declared in the returns filed during the financial year. Now this particular table talks about the taxes being paid as per the declarations of the various returns for the various months. So like here in the case, you are seeing that for the IGST head we had tax payable of 272 which was paid using the ITC balance, and similarly for CGST, for SGST we were having this much of tax payable which we had set off either with the cash or with the ITC which was available. One thing to note down is if you want to make changes over here, you are free to make changes. This was the tax payable, say for example 272. And now if at all I am saying that after getting down to this whole form, I came to a conclusion that no, my tax liability was something, say for example 327. I'll come to a point that why I specifically got this 327 also. So you can mention it over here and then click on the save button. Now you can notice one thing, that once I entered 327, this column get highlighted with a red boundary over the box. But if at all I am mentioning it 326, but if at all I am entering it 326, it is not getting highlighted. Still, even though in both the situations I am changing the values of tax payable. So if at all you are making any changes which are beyond 20% of the data being displayed already, it won't get highlighted with that red bounding box. But if you are crossing or you are making changes beyond 20% of the value, it will get highlighted with a red bounding box for the reference and attention purpose. So this is the thing, that you can make change but it will get highlighted if you are crossing the limit of 20% threshold. After saving out these details, let's quickly move on to the table D. And table D talks about the provisions. The table D, let's quickly move down to the table 10, 11, 12 and 13. Yes, a quick relief that I was talking at the beginning that the tables we are supposed to discuss is 19, but table 10, 11, 12 and 13 is summed up to a single table, and which talks about the details of the previous financial year's transactions reported in the next financial year. Like any transaction which took place in the financial year and you had reported that in the next financial year, so you are supposed to describe all those in the table 10, 11. Table 10 talks about the supplies or the tax declared through amendments, net of the debits of course. Table 11 talks about the supplies or tax reduced through amendment, like because of any amendment if supplies got reduced, so you need to mention it over here. Then table 12 talks about the reversal of ITC availed during the previous financial year, and table 13 talks about the ITC availed for the previous financial year. So if at all you had availed any ITC for which relates to the financial year, which relates to the previous financial year, you need to mention it over here. And based on all this, your total turnover will get revised and your tax liability also get revised with this. Click on save and move back to the form. So after this, let's move to the table 14, which talks about the differential tax to be paid. Now from where this differential tax will arrive is from the table 10, 11, 12 that we discussed previously. So if at all any variation is arriving in those tables, so based on that, the differential tax will be automatically displayed, will be automatically populated in payable column, and once you will pay that, it will be reflected back to this paid column. So after doing this, hit on the save button and get back to the form. And afterwards, quickly move down to the particulars of demands and return. If at all any demand has been raised or any refund claim request you have made, and if the refund has been sanctioned, so details of that. The refund rejected, details are to be mentioned. The total refund is still pending is to be mentioned over here. The total demand of taxes and the total taxes paid in respect of those demands and the total demands still pending, so are needed to be displayed in this column of table 15. Hit on the save, get back to the form. Next, move on to the supplies received from composition taxpayer deemed supply by the job worker and goods sent on approval basis under table number 16. So this table is aimed for receiving the details regarding composition taxpayers deemed supplies by the job worker and the goods sent on approval. So what it is all about is, let's quickly see that table 16A will talk about the supplies you had received from a composition taxpayer, and you would notice that only taxable value column is editable. Apart from that, IGST, CGST, SGST is not editable. So it is an food for thought question to you all, the viewers, to comment down why this is not displayed or why this component has got disabled. And then the next 16B says deemed supply under section 143. What 143 says is about the job works. So if you had sent the goods on the job work, so the details for that are to be mentioned over here. And then the goods sent on approval basis but not returned. Basically, there is a time limit of 180 days for the goods sent on approval, that if the goods are not being received or the consent has not yet received for the goods being sent for the approval basis, so they are deemed to be supplied, and then accordingly taxes to be calculated. Hit save and get back to the form. Afterwards, you are supposed to mention HSN wise summary of the outward supplies in the table 17 and HSN wise summary of inward supplies in table 18. I'll quickly take you to this table number 17 to see how this whole things works. So this HSN wise summary is to be mentioned in a specific cases only, and it is optional for the taxpayers whose aggregate turnover for the financial year preceding financial year was less than 1.5 crores. So it is again optional to them, but still if you want to mention, so I'll just show you a quick overview how to mention the details and what are all the features it asks for. So let's say for example I entered 5407 HSN, so which is relating to this woven fabrics of synthetics and so on. So once you will select that HSN, it will ask all these details to be mentioned. One more thing to note down is to fill these details you can refer to the GSTR1 HSN wise summary for your help, and put the HSN number UQC, that whether it is the unit quantity measure, whether it is in bags, meter, cubic meter, grams or whatsoever, and the description based on the HSN number, the total quantity, the taxable value of that, and the rate which was applicable, and then whether it was IGST, it was CGST or SGST. Click on add, and you can add the details for all the number of HSNs you are having. The HSN voice summary is being provided by the various softwares, like if you are using a Tally, then under the display of statutory audit reports and under the GST you will get GSTR1 and click on that. For that there is a separate video that will be shooting out very soon for you guys to help you out with this complex situation. So this was about the 17 and the table number 18. Next is the table number 19, based on the whole working that you had made. So you are filing your GSTR 9 annual return late, which of course I am expecting you all guys not to be doing that. So that will get highlighted based on that. So after filing up all these details, compute the liability, and once the liability is computed, you are supposed to pay that. And once the liability is being paid, you will be taken to the next step, which is proceed to file. But before filing, you can have the preview draft of GSTR 9 in the PDF format to make a review of all the workings that you had done in GSTR 9. So friends, this was all about GSTR 9 annual return form, which was the most anticipated and highly awaited one amongst all of us. I hope I would have made a bit more contribution to make you guys understand this form a bit better, and hopefully you will be able to file this return more easily and with a greater ease now. Friends, if you had liked this video, then please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe our channel for more such videos, which are going to be full of infotainment, means information plus entertainment. So till then, keep learning, keep sharing, and yes, don't forget to press the bell icon to receive the notification of our next videos in the series. Our one more series is on roll right now, which is Excel tutorial series, in which we are working to make the various utilities for you all. Till then, keep learning, keep sharing. Have a great day. Bye bye.